Okay.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Culturama. We're in Donna Hilbert's workshop today. Donna Hilbert, one of my very favorite people and poets in this world, and also writers. I prose writer. I love her novella, Waiting for My Baby, which it's hard to get anymore. But I've got it up on my shelf and I love it. And her poetry, exploring Long Beach and life and grief and nature, is just absolutely fantastic. I'm going to turn it over to her in a second, but I want to talk about a couple of things. First of all, sometimes people will come on and they don't realize there's a little bit of noise in the background. So I'm going to ask you to mute yourself. There's no static right now, so I'm okay. But I might mute you as we go on. If I do, please don't unmute yourself until it's time for you to speak, and then it's great for you to speak. I'm also going to I'm going to download something in the chat. I think my wife and I got our wires crossed. My wife told me to pre-send something to everybody. And then I was thinking it was going to be here. So I'm going to have something to download, but we're also going to share, I'm going to share my screen as we're going through here. So I'm going to download well, I'll let Donna talk and then I'll download as she's talking. So everybody, this is Donna.
Hi, everybody. I'm really delighted to be here today. Culturama, what an enormous undertaking. I'm very grateful to John and Anne for making this opportunity for us to meet. When John asked me to talk to you today, he asked me to talk about writing about grief. And I've done a great deal of that, writing about grief. The first impetus for this, I normally do a day-long 4-part workshop on writing the Catastrophe. And I got the idea for that when I realized that oftentimes people will go into wanting to write about really enormous subjects, and they think that if they write one poem about maybe their miserable childhood, because we've all got some big pockets of misery there, and they'll be done with it. Or perhaps their first heartbreak or the death of a parent, or what the first monumental thing that happens in this life. And I found that, well, we don't really write one poem and get over that thing. When my father died was kind of about the time that I started writing poetry, and after I got over the initial grief, I got super angry with him about all the, misfortunes of my childhood. And I wrote a lot of angry poems. It took a while then to get to the forgiving poem. When I finally got to the forgiving poem, I just happened to be reading it in an open, it wasn't an open reading, it was actually probably my first actual reading for my own. The person I burst into tears. I just lost it while reading this poem. But the person who was my first publisher happened to be at that reading and asked me if I had a manuscript. And as a matter of fact, I didn't, but I did. Once I knew I had a publisher, I got a manuscript. I put everything together. But that sort of taught me that one big poem doesn't solve anything. A better approach, I have found, is to write many smaller poems, kind of touching at the edges of things until we get to the heart of it. Poems based on one predominant image or happening. And that lesson was really brought home to me when my husband was killed as a result of a drunk driver mowing him down on his bicycle ride. And in the early aftermath of that tragedy, when I started writing, because, in a really emotional grief time, not much attention span, for a long work. But I took note of all my dreams. Many poems came out of dreams, or the last thing that he said to me before he was killed, or what we were doing right before, that sort of thing. Very small. So the book that came out of that, Transforming Matter, has many very small poems in it, but they were complete in themselves because there was specific imagery, specific memories. But I didn't try to tell the entire picture of our marriage from beginning to end, and then the tremendous loss, you know, of the person I had known since my 17th birthday. I didn't try to do it all in one thing. So that was my kind of first coming to grips with big subjects need many, many poems. Don't try to do it all at once. So in thinking about today's workshop, I mean, my ideas on this have been evolving, and I call kind of the workshop many different things, but writing the catastrophe would be the overall. When I got into that, I started thinking about, narrative poems versus lyric poems. And what kind of territory do each of these kind of poems cover? I mean, obviously we know, a narrative poem, it's telling a story. And a lyric poem is more about the personal experience of the speaker, built around usually a central image. And Mark Scarborough was kind enough to, in his poem, the lyric, was it the lyric voice or the lyric? I think it's just the lyric. He did one of my poems on his program, and I learned, tremendously more than I knew about my poem after listening to him talk about it. But one thing that he said that really struck me was that a lyric poem is like an overheard conversation. And so that's added a bit to my thoughts on what a lyric poem can do. So for today, we're going to look at one kind of a way that you might write a small poem or two about a big subject or a small subject. It doesn't have to be life and death every time. Certainly. How lovely when it's not. One technique that I never even really realized that I used so much until I read about what it was, but it's the apostrophe. And that's a poem that addresses someone not with you, or a body part, a deity, an object. Pretty much, you're directly addressing someone outside yourself who's not physically with you, or something. And I realized the first apostrophe I wrote was kind of a joke, because there were, and back when back in the old days, 80s, whenever I was getting started, there were a couple of magazines. I thought, by God, they will publish anything, whether it's serious or whatever. So I wrote this little poem. Dear God, I wish I could find an original sin. You must be bored as hell. Amen. Well, sure enough, they went for it. But now I realized that was an apostrophe. It was like the first apostrophe I ever wrote. And and then the next one I think was Dear John, letter to my uterus. I got the, had to have a hysterectomy early on. I mean, as a young woman, that my children had been born, all that I intended to have. And so I wrote a goodbye to this pretty crucial body part. Not having an idea it was an apostrophe, but nevertheless. Well, since then, I've had many failures. So I have an ode, letter to my piriformis, which I'd never heard of until it went south. Other body parts. You can also write an apostrophe to a state of being. And I didn't even realize, again, the apostrophe has snuck up on me many times. In my new book, it's just full of apostrophes. I have Dear Sadness, dear husband. While I'm telling him all the tragedies he's missed. I guess what I'm getting at is it's a highly elastic form. You can use it for many purposes. You can also write apostrophes that are positive and not mournful. And you can think of it a little bit in the way that you would an ode. So, do we have the, okay, I see that the handout is, whoops, now I've lost, I'm always,
Would you like me to share the screen?
Well, now I'm off the screen. I have to figure out how to get back on. Let's see. Oh, yeah. This always happens to me. Robin usually tells me how to get back on when I have.
You've got an icon at the bottom of your screen that looks like a
Ah, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Oh no, this is Bolt. What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. John, help me.
Okay, so it should be at the bottom of your screen, on the little taskbar at the bottom, probably to the right. And it's blue and it looks like it's a blue button with a white camera on the inside.
This is
I've never
fun.
seen that one.
What's that?
I've never, sorry.
Ah, okay.
Right?
I have so many things on there. It took a while to find it. Okay. Well, can you all open up your, it's on the chat. You can either look in the chat or share the screen. What do you think is going to be better, John? I don't want to lose myself again.
Probably sharing the screen just because people will have trouble downloading.
Okay.
There we go. Everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay, now I still see me. Okay. Can you scroll through it and get everything?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start at the top. Can the individuals scroll through and get everything?
Yeah. Well, if we've got it downloaded, we can. Otherwise, we're dependent on John to do it for
Okay.
us.
John, if you could get to the top of it. Okay, there's some definitions there of the personal lyric and writing the apostrophe. The lyric voice, the lyric poetry is the voice of the individual making sense of his or her experience, Gregory Orr. Our best work derives merely from a continuity of our daily selves, William Stafford, and boy, do I believe that to be true. Apostrophe, an address to a dead or absent person, a deity, an object, a body part, an animal or condition. And every poem in this handout is an apostrophe of one kind or another. So John, if you can sort of scroll through I hadn't intended to read these out loud, but I want to make sure everybody, can everyone, see these?
Yeah, I think everybody can see.
Okay, well, I'm going to read kind of one from each category perhaps, and then I'm going to give it a little assignment, okay? Now, I have my own. I have my own list here. Okay, the first one, Untitled by James Baldwin. It's obviously starts with Lord. Lord, when you send the rain, think about it, please. a little. Do not get carried away by the sound of falling water, the marvelous light on the falling water. I am beneath that water. It falls with great force, and the light blinds me to the light. So, of course, he is addressing a deity. And then Te Deum by Charles Reznikoff. And of course, that is you, God. I thought it's interesting. Here's a Jew titling his poem after a part of the Catholic Mass.
Mm.
And I love that. It's, you know, however we believe, we come together, I think, you know, with something, a power greater, within, without. I'm kind of, you know, science person myself. Te Deum, not because of victories I sing, having none, or for the common sunshine, the breeze, the largess of the spring, not for victory, but for the day's work done, as well as I was able. Not for a seat upon the dais, but at the common table. I think I include this workshop or this poem in every workshop I do, and find some excuse to do so, because it is kind of my personal mantra or prayer to whatever power there is, or whatever special thing I can call upon myself, is just to do my part. Just to be a part of the conversation of the spirit, the conversation of poetry, the conversation of reverence for something larger than ourselves, however you interpret it. So, Te Deum goes everywhere. Okay. I think that should get you started. So I'd like to take the next few minutes and we'll have a generative exercise. If you feel like it, write about a little poem to whatever some force outside yourself that you can either be angry with or call upon to thank or argue with. And do it in about no more than 10 lines. And if you can, end that each line with a one-syllable word. I'm giving you some ideas here. 10 lines, a nice, solid, one-syllable word to end it. Dear whomever, dear God, dear Buddha, dear force of life, or anything else that comes to mind. Give it about 10 minutes. If I can see your faces and see that you're restless, I'll know that, you know, maybe it's time to move on to something else. So How are we doing? Who needs more time? Who's ready? Okay. Well, John, shall we unmute?
Yeah, just you're able to unmute yourselves.
I've unmuted myself. Unmute yourselves if you're ready.
I'm going to volunteer early because otherwise I won't at all.
Okay,
You, Wayne.
I love it. Do we
Uh,
have a sense of how many people would like to read what they got up with? I'd like to get a sense of, okay, we have, okay, cool, cool. You make me happy.
You can also raise your hand in the reactions and that'll put you in an order.
John, will you keep track of the order?
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Well, we know who the first one is.
To my left big toe in the time of peripheral neuropathy. For those who don't know, peripheral neuropathy means that your limbs are a little numb. In my case, my feet. My left big toe. Yes, we've lost touch, but it's not my fault or yours. The flaw lies further up leg or maybe in brain. Yes, I know my brain, my leg. May I remind? You're also mine, squat rebel. So stop sending shocks up that foot's tendons, okay?
Yes. You got it. I live in fear of such things.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Wayne. Thank you so much for starting us off. John's keeping track here of who's next.
It's Tom is next.
All righty. Unmute yourself, Tom.
Unmute. We collide with you in many moments of the day, wondering if these moments will someday subside or ever should. Turn a corner, you are there to steal my breath away.
How did you title that, Tom? Or did you?
No.
Okay. Why did I ask that? Because I know
Michelle's laughing.
you.
Sometimes I'm forced to title.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to force you to do anything, but thank you so much for reading.
Now we have Aruni.
Hi, Donna.
Hi, Aruni. Long time no see.
I know.
Mm.
Twice in a week. Dear God, I don't think you know me as I am Buddhist and you're not, but I seem to talk to you every day at school during the pledge, my hand on my heart. If we are in one nation under you, indivisible, why do I feel split into two people? And does the half of me that asks you to bless America, you know, in the song, have your ear?
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you. It just does my heart good to hear these poems.
Robin's up next.
Okay, I'll see if I can. I was trying to get it typed so I could read it, but let me see what I can do.
I'm sorry.
I actually wrote it by hand. You'd be glad to know,
Oh,
Donna.
you better believe it. I am I'll just put in my plug for write by hand.
Okay,
Nice paper.
right. Nice. Well,
Different part of your brain. You can always type afterward.
dear childhood that bathed us in a golden glow, drowned the shouts and slamming doors, the slap of hand on rear, the nights when our young ears were turned like radar discs to the tenor of our parents' voices. Thank you for the clover, bees, the whiskered warmth of horses' noses. But let me resurrect, now that I'm old and stronger, those drowned, darker faces.
Wow. It's an amazing amount in such a short time. You guys are awesome.
Okay, next we have Perry.
I feel like there's like a few more lines that I need to write for this, but this is what I got for so far. To our Father, my shoulders burn where you ripped my wings from tender flesh, but you taught me well, I'll stand by you because fathers do know best. I wonder if you heard me scream when you tore me from your womb. I wonder if your ears still bleed when you hear me cry for you.
Oh. I'm just blown away at how quickly you have gotten to the heart of things, all of you.
Oh, Lavina is next.
All right.
Dear Fidgets, step back into the shadow, flatten against a wall, and still yourself. What will you become? A wall covering, a shadow companion. You can't follow instructions very well, so don't try. You would only end up in that futility chamber made for all my various failures. You would very likely begin to fume and smoke and possibly catch on fire. So hide, my fidgets, cloak yourself, turn off the video if you must, so not to agitate the others who your movements would distract. Sleep deprived, I understand, but you have some control. Eyelids up, prop them if you must, and hold that leg still. Keep those twiddly fingers in your lap.
You even brought home a laugh at the end. Cool.
All right, guitar.
Dear tree, you who were once here, now gone. I haven't seen such gray-green leaves since. There's an empty space, more sun in the tiny garden. The lone tree at the end seemed to stretch into your space. My eyes go to the empty spot where your roots are drying, still searching. Maybe one day, you.
Thank you.
All right, Jennifer is next.
All right. This is hard for me. Dear ghosts, why are you always in her dreams? She wakes, throws back a tumble of sheets, her mouth, limbs, lids wrinkled, heavy from the parade of you. What are you trying to say? That's it.
All right, Nancy is up next.
Unmute.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure about the title of this, but a
No.
moment. To
We
she,
have time for that.
the birther of 10 children. Mother, where have you gone? Again, not available to me. Once more, otherwise occupied. We had such a short time together as friends. Did I make the best use of that longed for time? Before you disappeared, obscured again, now behind the veil.
Thank you, Nancy. I think you've got to start for probably a larger work somewhere. I mean, maybe a series, do you think?
Yeah, there is a series.
Yeah, okay, I got that sense.
That's the last people had their hands raised virtually. Does anybody else? Let's go to Betsy and then to Gary.
I see Betsy and Gary, yeah.
I don't know. I put it up, but it kept going away. Maybe it's trying to tell me something.
You were doing thumbs up rather than raise hand.
Oh, okay. Was I? Okay, anyway, I don't know my way around the
I go
room.
through this with the workshop every Tuesday night. I don't know if people are scratching or raising their hands or, or just like.
No, I had the little reaction hand up, but it just.
Oh, the reaction hand.
I think I was doing the wrong one. I had to say about Aruni's poem, I've been subbing a lot, and every time they do the Pledge of Allegiance, I fall out on the under God part. I just can't say it. And I am hoping no one in the class notices.
But anyway, this was, as usual, I had this workshop with Donna before, and it never fails to bring up a lot of emotion for sure. So I don't know if this is the title, but I just started out, Dear Gravity, how you tightened and pulled. Could you instead have spared him? The earth draws what it will, but he perhaps was lacking his. Another day might have passed and still he might have risen against the weight of all that seemed so hard to bear and still been here instead of there.
Thank you, Betsy.
And Gary.
This doesn't have a title. Where did they go, my 4 children? Flushed from her womb for cause, no beating heart, no moving limbs. I thought my own heart beat strongly enough to hold yours. I was wrong as the rain wet my hair outside the hospital. Even a hat can be sad.
Whoa. One of my favorite quotes about poetry is from Stanley Kunitz. End on an image and don't explain. And I think that was like the first piece of poetry advice that I ever just committed to my heart. End on an image and don't explain. Of course, there are times when you will violate that, like with all rules about poetry. They will be violated to great effect. However, that particular principle, you will not violate it that often if it is crucial to the game. End on an image, unless your explanation of something is so astounding that we need it. Otherwise, end on that image.
Amelia put one in the chat and she asked that I read it, or I asked her if I could read it. She said yes. It's, Dear Mom, I see your wrinkles, I see your age. I see you forgetting you are here now. You are here now though, so I will take this time to love you with all of my heart, but I will miss you so much when you are gone.
Oh, thank you. Who did?
That was Amelia.
Thank you, Amelia. Thank you.
Yeah, she put up a message saying she's in the library, so she can't say.
Oh, okay. Now I see you. Thank you. Very enterprising. Good. Thank you.
Oh, Edna put one in there too.
John, is there anything in the chat that I need to look at?
Well, Edna just dropped a poem in the chat as well. Would you like?
Would you read it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Boy, oh boy, don't make me repeat. The apple had fallen. If you wish, come and eat. Boy, I won't stop you. I'm at your feet, grateful to swallow whatever you spit. Boy, oh boy, boy, my boy.
Oh, wow. Love it. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see, it's 10 till nice. We end at 12:45.
That's right.
Yeah, okay. We're good. Anyone else for this round?
I just wanted to say about the one about I think it was Gary's, the one, next to last one that was read aloud, or that the sort of slight humor of the hat, the image of the hat was really made the impact of the pathos stronger for me.
Isn't it amazing how that works? I totally, yeah, that's what an apt image can do. And a poem is one of the few, well, I don't know, I'll make a global statement, which I'll probably want to take back. Shall we say that poetry is particularly good at holding contraries together? And that was one of my big shocks as a poet, because I thought everything that I wrote was so tragic and so forth. And then when people would laugh out loud at some of the things I wrote, I was pretty darn surprised. But I realized, well, yeah, I mean, it is funny. I mean, it's sad, but it's also funny. And then I kind of got off on trying to be funnier, which lasted for a while. Unfortunately, diminished over time. But the beauty of a poem is if you can hold those two things together, it's wonderful. And also a poem that doesn't take itself too seriously is as welcome as poets who don't take themselves too seriously. It's, it's a wonderful thing. Yeah, so thank you, Robin, for commending that last line. Anyone else have reactions before we look at anything else? Okay, I think I'm going to read one poem out loud because I realize that this poem, I love this poem so much. It's a pleasure to read it. I realize that sometimes people don't get it, what it's talking. I mean, I didn't get it when I first read it, exactly what the poet was talking about. And I didn't think of it that much as an apostrophe. But now, because I created this category in my brain where everything seems to fall into the category of apostrophe right now. I'm going to read out loud Question by Mae Swenson. Body, my house, my horse, my hound, what will I do when you are fallen? Where will I sleep? How will I ride? What will I hunt? Where can I go without my mount, all eager and quick? How will I know in thicket ahead, in danger or treasure, when body, my good bright dog, is dead? How will it be to lie in the sky without roof or door and wind for an eye? With cloud for shift, how will I hide? Well, the first few times I read this poem, I thought she's writing a poem to her dog and her dog's name is Body. And well, that was quite the misapprehension on my part. She was writing to, of course, her, I say of course now that I understand the poem, her corporeal body. And the question is, how will I exist without a body? And honestly, I had never thought of that as a question. And perhaps that is, the agnostic in me coming out, not really thinking about, much past what I'm particularly anxious about on a given day or what I'm making for dinner, whichever is more pressing. So I just wanted to read that out so that when you read it for yourself, you don't have to struggle. I mean, maybe no one struggled with it but me, but I recently read it to someone who didn't get it. So I thought I can't assume. I mean, I didn't get it. And well, I'm used to not getting things. So I'm not like, whatever, enough said. And there's another, so she is really confronting death and how will it be to be dead? And which brings me, there's the last poem on the handout. And I had to get permission from the place it first appeared where I read it and contacted the poet who is not widely published. And just goes to show you that when we feel maybe badly that we're not getting all the attention we would like to get in this world, there are lots of people out there who are not getting any at all because they're not putting themselves out there. So I ran across this poet named Elizabeth Romero on Vox Populi. And Vox Populi is the only one who has permission to publish her poems. I was so taken by her poems that I managed to track down all the ones on that site and asked, of course, now I'm not going to be able to say his name because I'm having that brain thing that happens when I want to remember somebody's name. The wonderful poet who runs Vox Populi got permission from the poet to let me use it in a handout. And that is so Mr. Death. That is obviously, a poem about death, a poem addressing death in a more direct way than question was. And it's also a wonderful poem. I've been spending a lot of time not addressing death as a concept, but addressing my late husband, because, he was taken out in a very untimely fashion. So I've been filling him in on what he's missed. So I would say for the next round, how about either, addressing death in, directly, or perhaps someone who has died and bringing them up to date. Either what they've been spared or all the good fun that they've missed. See what that would be like. Okay, let's see. It is about 10 to 15 minutes on this one. And the nice thing here is, it's just getting down your first thoughts and not worrying about what you're going to call it or what you might add to it later. Just get down your first passionate thoughts about the subject. That's a day's work in itself. So go for it, brave and kind people. How are we doing? Are we getting close to? Okay. Unmute. You may unmute yourselves if you wish.
Would you like people to read?
I would.
If you, in the reaction button, please raise your hand if you'd like to read. Okay, first up we have Carrie.
Okay, I've been working on this one all morning, in the last class in this one too.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you, Carrie.
so this is called Seeds. I took a piece of chalk, drew a fire around our house. This was to distract God, so he wouldn't come in. I'd rather be in hell with you than anywhere with you gone. You offered me greens, the first hit. I had been sober 8 years. I inhaled the smoke from your mouth. We smoldered till only seeds were left. I followed your trail of breadcrumbs, thinking you had the whole loaf. I'll stop writing about you when you come to my door with fruit. Fat, middle-aged, living with your parents. We'll share coffee at my kitchen table, sort out who tried to kill who, then I can move on with my life. A pomegranate is not easily broken, has seeds within seeds you would press with your tongue till they bled through your teeth. You would peel the skin, the membrane away. You even swallowed their bones. Each seed you devour is a story. In the dark of your belly it grows. Time breaks it apart, scatters it, like a wish on a dandelion you never meant to make. You will hear my voice on the wind. The death of a seed is a breakthrough.
Very powerful, Carrie. Thank you.
Robin is up next.
Oh, unmute. Robin, you're muted.
I wanted to say I really liked the image, the way the last reader used the image of the pomegranates and the seeds. That was really great. Okay, to death. I can't make up my mind about you. A cold-hearted bastard who takes whom he wants into his black cave and gloats? Or one of those rare friends who always knows to call just when you think you've had it. Food turned to sawdust, your loved ones speaking to you, just so many mosquitoes bothering your ears. Who opens the door bearing warm broth, and then at last the sleep you've longed for.
Thank you. You've ended it on an image.
And we have Aruni.
Dear Death, why are you portrayed as a reaper who fells those we love with your scythe, rising like a crescent moon? I know you are a door, but I am undecided as to what kind of door you are. Some days I think you are one of those doors that swings both ways, like the ones in restaurants that lead to and from the steaming, clattering kitchen, a glass porthole cut in the top so that streams of waiters can try to avoid a collision of plates and cutlery, sauce flying like blood across startled diners. Or are you a waiter passing through the dining room, handing out checks discreetly, asking to be paid at the end of a long meal? Other days, my more Buddhist days, I feel you are a revolving door that leads into an airport terminal or the lobby of a grand hotel. Feel the turn of your glass panels turning people in and out of a building, passing from one reality to the next with a hushed sweep as travelers and their bags come and go from this existence and pass onwards in their journey, unbothered by doorknobs and creaking hinges. At night, you are the bedroom door, ajar so I can pass out of my body and sleep, drift to other places where I might visit with friends who I thought had left, called back to my flesh with a gentle tapping on the door jamb to remind me that I need to return to the other side.
I am so moved by all the work you are all bringing forth. It's very moving to me.
Oh, we have Wayne next.
Where are you, Wayne?
All right. This one is deeply theologically inaccurate. Here now, death. You're claiming too many these days. Must be getting crowded in your realm, even if it is divided into a haven for good and a prison for evil. Or are you holding all that life until its next round on the wheel? I used to worry that there were so many of us born down here, there wouldn't be enough returning souls. Some might come into the world with a half soul or none. I thought I'd met some. Are you now reclaiming all those half souls? And are you sure you're getting the right ones?
Perry's next.
I called this one Ode to Adsense. It's funny. Since you've been gone, I don't miss you so much. Your eyes have faded and I have almost rid my mouth of the taste of your name. They told me it would hurt, that I'd scream and cry and tear my wrists on the sharpest edges of memory. But here I am in the absence of your heat, and all I can think is how soft the cold feels on these scars.
Another image at the end. Thank you.
And the last with the hand up is Robin.
Unmute, Robin.
I said I already read, so is there another Robin? Because I lowered my hand.
Oh, I think I lowered it and you raised it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
got it. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to join in? Not sure about the buttons, just want to raise your hand. Okay, I think that's everybody then.
Okay.
Oh, Connie just put something up.
Oh.
May I read that? Mother, you are not here to share with me as I grow old. What was it like for you when aging came? Did you resent new limitations, restrictions, pain, or find acceptance, peace, and knowledge gained?
Oh. Thank you, Connie. Thank you. I know there's a great deal I'd like to ask my mother. I wish she were here. But isn't it wonderful we have can at least ask the questions in poetry. Thank you. Well, I guess it's somewhat of a cliche to say, love and death for poetry, but boy, doesn't it turn out to be that way. So another possibility for the apostrophe is a love poem, or a poem to a lost love, a poem to, well, there's so many ways of losing. Losing love is like a window in your heart. Everyone can see you're blown apart. Thank you, Paul Simon. So it's a subject that never seems to exhaust itself. And there was a time when I was suffering a rather unnamed heartbreak, where W.B. Yeats on the poem, the subject of heartbreak was sort of my compass point, I guess you could say. I'm going to read a deep sworn vow, which I used to be able to recite, but I can't recite anything anymore. Not even my phone number half the time. A deep sworn vow. Others, because you did not keep that deep sworn vow, have been friends of mine. Yet always when I look death in the face, when I clamber to the heights of sleep, or when I grow excited with wine, suddenly I meet your face. I've always found this to be such a moving poem, and it's so short. It's only 6 lines. And something I've just now noticed, since I've been kind of in love with the idea of ending on a 1-syllable word at the end of a line, why W.B. Yeats does that in this little bitty poem, this little 6-line poem. Keep, mind, face, sleep, wine, and face again. And I'm thinking what a nice compact little form that is. 6 lines, 2 repeated words, and then 2 exact rhymes. I'm just throwing that out there. Might be something you want to look at. Is there another love poem here? Okay, I'm going to read the one by, I have helped organize a few poetry festivals, not something I would recommend, but nevertheless, had some wonderful poets who I might not have ever had the opportunity to meet had we not done this. And one of them was Dorothea Grossman. This little poem, I just love it. I have to tell you there are times when the sun strikes me like a gong and I remember everything, even your ears. Another little 6-line poem that I love. I think that was published in Poetry Magazine. Not that that matters, but. Okay, so how about the next little round? About 10 minutes we have, oh golly, less than 10 minutes, but you only have to write maybe 6 lines. How's that? A love poem to someone somehow not in your life, through death, through estrangement, whatever. If you've already done that, dear something else. Or it's possible that more than one love is not in your life for one reason or another. I'm guessing. Okay, go for it. Well, how are we doing? Okay, looks like many are ready. And unmute yourselves. For anybody who didn't get the last prompt, I know a couple missed it, and I tried to put it in the chat, but I'm not really good at that. But I just draw attention to the Dorothea Grossman poems and the W.B. Yeats poem, and addressing a lost love. But you can do that later. Homework. So
put your hand up virtually if you'd like to read. And Robin is first.
Okay, this is very short. I'm not sure, it's kind of a lost love, but not quite. These days you totter on swollen feet, weighted by a belly like a swallowed beach ball, hair that's lost its curl, nimble fingers clumsy, and still how I love the bones of you.
Concrete image, or not exactly concrete, but bone, bones that are not concrete in the real sense. Okay, John?
Gary. You're still muted.
You're muted.
Sorry.
That's okay.
This is just called Love Poem. When the moon impishly slides through our slatted shades, I throw my arm over clotted sheets, but you are gone, and Tuesday is so far away.
Cool.
Okay, Jennifer.
Okay, sparks. I look for it, the spark between women, but sparks between women can be confusing, result in sleepless nights and sweaty dreams.
I love how the images are ending up at the end. Okay.
Nancy.
Okay, love lost. You never recognized my creativity or treated me as a friend or truly cherished our time together. You took my talents for granted, felt threatened when others gave credit, wanted all glory to go to you. Love comes at a slant now from old dogs, yard workers, little boys, recognition from strangers in strange lands, comfort in bed from a hot water bottle wrapped in cashmere.
Wow. You guys have got this image thing down.
All right, Perry. I think you're muted, Perry.
This one's super short and feels a little bit derivative, but we'll do it anyways. A cardinal sings and I hear you sigh, my child, I am no longer broken.
Oh. Thank you.
Wonderful. T2.
The house is dark as I enter.
There's no such thing as a poem that's too short, by the way, in my opinion.
Rooney.
I don't know if this works or not, but we'll see.
Well, it's the first draft.
90s alt rock resurrection. I drive with windows rolled down against a Southern California day, and the radio plays Bittersweet Symphony. And you come back to me, your laugh still curled in my ear, and we walk at midnight through Santiago, and you never die.
Works for me.
Yeah. Is there anybody else who would like to go? I don't think so. Okay.
Well, I would like to thank you all for being such wonderful participants here and sharing, your tender places with us all. And I am blown away by what good work has come out of this. And it really makes me super happy. And I would just like to show you some of my favorite books really quick, because as you can see, I have a few. So for anybody who's kind of looking around for, I don't know, just jump starting themselves, if you feel at a loss. I love this book so much. A Primer for Poets and Readers of Poetry by Gregory Orr. And it's sort of my Bible of workshop ideas. And then an earlier book of his, Poetry as Survival, which, well, for me it is survival. Absolutely. And here's the book that when I was a fiction writer, I had a fancy New York agent, but that's a long story and not a good one. She gave me this book, How to Read a Poem and Start a Poetry Circle by Molly Peacock. And I thought, why is she giving me this? I've been teaching workshops and I really don't need this. I mean, who does she think I am, for crying out loud? So, and I mentioned earlier about my big book, Alphabetizing Adventure. I ran across this book during that and I decided to read it. By God, it is one of the most brilliant books I've ever read. And I highly recommend it. And yeah, it's just so good. And then the other crucial book is In the Palm of Your Hand by my late great friend, Steve Cowett, which is just a wonderful book. Of course, the best workshop is the poem itself. And just read as much poetry as you can possibly read by the best poets you can possibly find. And that is the best workshop you'll ever have. I thank you all for joining me today.
Thank you, Donna. So I hope you stick with us. Up next, we have Grant Heyer, who is Poet Laureate of Anaheim and a just fantastic teacher. We're going to try something a little bit different with Grant. We're going to be doing a live interview and kind of coming up with prompts and ideas on the fly. And I hope it's not just me interviewing. I'd love if everyone else joined in. All right, so that'll start at 1 p.m. Thank you all so much. And thank you, Donna.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. John, thanks so much for